Miss Transforce 96 here with another movie review. This time I'm obviously going to be reviewing Doctor Strange. So this is very exciting. It's our second and last Marvel movie and last superhero movie of the year. And I think that it ended quite nicely, the superhero movie 2016 slate. I think that it ended on a good movie. So let's get talking about it. I've made kind of like a little list of things to talk about here. First of all, I just want to say this is going to be a spoiler-filled review. I just don't want to try to censor myself or hold back my thoughts, and I will obviously want to talk about some spoilers. So if you're still watching this, I assume you're okay with spoilers, and therefore I shall finish the background. All right, so now let's get into talking about it. So I'm gonna start off talking about just kind of the movie based on how it's laid out. I'm gonna talk about the stages of the movie as they're presented in the film, and at a certain point I'll hit all the characters, and I'm gonna end with the Eye of Agamotto as well as the fights in general. But first of all, I did see this in IMAX 3D last night, Thursday night, which was opening night in the U.S. It was very exciting, and I got that sweet poster back there. It's actually an awesome poster. I think that it will look really good with the Hot Toys one. I might end up displaying it with them. But nice poster, very happy to have it. As well as I did see it a second time this morning. I went and saw it this morning as well. So I have seen it twice now. I'm definitely going to be seeing it some more times, but I think I've collected my thoughts. I'm sure by the time I finish this and the next time I see the movie, I'm just going to be like, oh, I forgot to talk about this, or oh, I forgot to talk about that. So, all of my thoughts may not come out in this video, but I've tried to think of as much as I can that I personally wanted to talk about. So let's get started. First of all, talking about showing Doctor Strange, in his world where he is the sergeant and just kind of arrogant. I thought that this was the clear place to start the movie, of course, and I think that they did it quite nicely. I would say that it went kind of fast. I was very surprised when he was in his, I believe he drives a Lamborghini, yeah. When he was in his car already, I was like, whoa, I guess the crash is going to happen. I expected to spend a little bit more time with him as a sergeant before that happened. However, the time that we did spend with him as a sergeant, I think, hit all the key things that we needed to see. Needed to see how he interacted with the people, and obviously his relationship with Christine, and how he is very good at what he does, of course, and how he's, he uses his stable hands. That's what allows him to do what he does. So I did think that was very good, especially the scene where he is removing the bullet, and obviously he needed to be completely silent, and they even said you can't do this handheld type of thing, and he does it, but his hands are so steady and so precise that he's able to do it. So it makes the loss of his hands even more of an issue when it happens, and it happens. Obviously, he gets in the crash. The crash is really cool. I mean, it looks really good. I think the CGI is pretty spot on as far as the car crash goes. I think that it's a little over the top. I mean, based on how that car crashes, I can't even imagine how he's not dead. Now, luckily, he does look really rough. It's not like he just has a couple scratches. His face is all messed up. His eye is swollen shut, and obviously his hands are basically torn to shreds. So at least he looks messed up. However, I can't imagine that his hands are the only long-term effect after their crash like that. So although I like the way that the crash looked, I think that they should have dumbed it down just a bit so that it's not so unbelievable how he survived that. But it was still a very cool scene in general. So I did like it. I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? I can't remember. But then after the crash, how as he's looking like for a cure and everything, I thought that was very good. They did show him going to quite a few options first before he starts on a more of a mystical or spiritual, I can't even say it, path. So I did like that they did kind of they showed him exhausting his options. One particular scene that happens in this course of the film is, or in this part of the film, is when he has a little outburst with Kristen, or is it Kirsten? Oh no, shoot. I just said her name earlier in this too. She's the one name I didn't write down before filming this. Christine, yeah. He does have a little kind of outburst with her while he's at his apartment, and after he's been just told that another operation is not going to be able to happen, type of thing. And I thought that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I think that it is the scene that showcases Benedict Benedict Cumberbatch's acting the best. He had to use probably the most emotion in that scene out of the entire movie. So I thought that was very good. Also, the camera was handheld, so it had that bit of a shakiness, very kind of real vibe to it, which I liked quite a bit. And just the setting of the room was very nice. It was very gray, just dimly lit by a few lamps. And then it is, of course, raining outside, and considering like the entire wall is just a glass panel, that rain is very evident. And I thought that just that scene was great. And then I love the way that it ends, where he puts his hands, on the glass and just has his head down. You can basically like only see his silhouette, except for his hands. His hands are very front and center, and obviously they're the main focus of the story at this point. So I thought that was excellent. And then, of course, the gray rain just coming down very hard outside was really nice. And basically, the rain was all that you heard for that shot. So I really enjoyed that scene as a whole, and I thought that it ended on a very strong visual. So I was very happy about that. Now his path to find the Ancient One, can't remember the place that he goes to, but he obviously finds her. I do like the fact that when he gets there, he doesn't. He thinks that the Ancient One is that older Asian gentleman, which I thought was very funny, considering there was so much flack when Tilda Swinton was cast as the Ancient One, and they changed the gender and ethnicity of the Ancient One. So I liked that they somewhat gave like a nod to that, basically. So, if they're gonna do it, I'm glad that they at least made acknowledgement of like what the classic Ancient One should have been, basically. So I enjoyed that scene. I liked the fact that he wasn't super into being to doing a spiritual thing instead of a medical thing. I liked that he thought that was that they were doing medical experiments there to avoid taxes and things like that. So I did enjoy that, and I thought that the way that he got started at the school, it didn't feel forced, it didn't feel out of nowhere, it felt very natural, especially after what he went through, the immediate, I want to learn. Anybody in that situation would be like, what just happened? I want to know, So it made sense, and I did like that. One thing I will say is, although it's mentioned throughout the film that he's very arrogant and stuff, I think that at the beginning of the film, there aren't too many examples of that, when he's like rude to like one sergeant. However, that sergeant is kind of made for us to dislike him, especially since he was about to like take some guy's organs who wasn't actually dead yet, things like that. So I felt like a lot of his stuff was justified. The only time where he really came off as a jerk was when he was trying to move his hands, and he did call the guy that was trying to help him, his physical therapist, he did call him a bachelor's degree, that's what he referred to him as. So I felt that was, that was a really nice way to get across Stephen Strange's arrogantness and selfishness, and just overall, very self-absorbed. So I like that, but I wish that they did a little bit more of that at the beginning, so that they really beat it through you that he is not a particularly nice guy, and then he becomes nice, and he becomes more, not so self-serving as the movie progresses. So I would have liked that, but however, what they did was still quite nice. Now, okay, let's move on to the characters now. I've talked about Strange himself. Now, Mordo, Baron Mordo, or Baron Mordo, although in the movie they only say his last name, but I thought he was quite a good character. I thought that he was underutilized from what I was expecting. I expected him to be pretty front and center to the side of, Doctor Strange. However, he wasn't in the movie that much. He does have a few important scenes. However, I was expecting him to be in the movie more. I did like him, and I love the fact that he is kind of being set up as a villain. I think that his relationship with Doctor Strange would be fantastic in a sequel, considering they both basically want the same thing, but they're going about it different ways. And I like the fact that he starts out as a hero, and through the course of the film, learning that the Ancient One is lying to them, and then seeing that Doctor Strange is kind of breaking the rules to get things accomplished that he needs to get accomplished. That's what kind of turns him, and because everything has a consequence, basically, as he states. So I did like his character a lot, although I'm more excited for his potential rather than specifically what he did in this movie. I think that he could be a fantastic villain for the sequel. I would hope that he gets redeemed, though. I hope that he does become the villain, but then by the end of the movie, he is redeemed by Doctor Strange, and becomes more of the yin to his yang rather than his nemesis. So I'm excited for the potential of that character. I do think that average moviegoers, it might be quite jarring to see that end credit scene when he kills the guy, or not kills him, but takes his magic. Just because I feel like I knew that he was a villain in the comics, so whenever he made some sort of comment, I was understanding that he could become a villain. But I think the average moviegoer who doesn't know that might be very surprised as to how his character progressed in the movie. All right, now Wong. I thought Wong was a great character. Obviously, in the comics, he's like Doctor Strange's manservant. So obviously, trying to update it for a modern audience, I think it was very smart not to do that. And I think that Wong was a great character, added nice comedy relief, and was a good character. I'd be excited to see him in the future films. Then we have now this I still haven't learned how to pronounce his name, Calcius or something like that. The villain, Mads Mikkelsen's character, he was extremely standard, which is what I was expecting him to be. Luckily, there was somebody who was a bigger villain than him, which I'll talk about in a second. However, Mads Mikkelsen character he had some cool fight scenes and everything, but his actual villain persona was very basic, which is somewhat expected when it comes to an MCU film, unfortunately. Now, Dormammu, I was extremely excited for him to be in this movie, and they kept it a secret, but I was really hoping that he would be in this movie, or at least there would be a solid name drop for him or something like that. So I was very pleased that not only did he get a name drop, but he was like the villain in the film. That was really cool, and I was very pleased with that. The only unfortunate part to it was that I didn't like the way that he looked. He was obviously just a face, and apparently it is Benedict Cumberbatch's motion capture that they use for Dormammu, which I thought was great. It kind of gives you that he's kind of fighting his inner demon almost, without you even knowing that. So I thought that was a really smart idea, but I didn't like how he looked. I liked the way that his face moved, which created those lines, and in like some of the really early drawings for Dormammu in the comics, he does have lines in his face, so I did like that, but you really couldn't see any sort of fire on him. You did see his arm at one point, so I don't know if he's just a head or if he is more than that, but I love the look of him in the comics so much, like that figure right there I love, so I would have loved so much to actually see a full Dormammu that looked somewhat like this, obviously modernized for the film, but that kept its comic book roots somewhat as far as the look went. Hopefully in the future we'll get something closer. I mean, it's certainly possible. Dormammu is still alive, of course, and maybe in a sequel he comes to Strange, in a more humanoid form so that they can converse better. That's possible, but I'm not holding out hope for it, especially since Mordo seems to be the focus as the villain in the next film. So we might see Dormammu again, but even if we do, I don't know if they're going to change his look to make him a little bit more comic-like. So I was super excited to see that he was in the movie, but quite disappointed as to how he looked. And then the last character I want to talk about is the Cloak of Levitation. I do consider him a character, basically. I thought that it was really neat and really smart to make the cloak sentient, even though in the comics it is not. And I think that it just added a lot of personality and added for some humor and just... It kind of made Doctor Strange like he's got a little bit of a teammate there going on. I thought that it was a very cute idea and it worked really nicely. The way that he was beating one of those bad guys as it was wrapped around its head was hysterical, and he was going all over the place. Very funny, and I thought that the cloak was just really great. But a star of the film, I'd say. And then the Time Gem, or the Infinity Stone. Now, this is something that wasn't a surprise. It was heavily rumored, and there was even a TV spot trailer that came out that was labeled Time, and it seemed to revolve around the Eye of Agamotto being the Time Stone, so it wasn't a surprise that it was the Time Stone, but I liked the way that it was presented as the Time Stone. I thought that how it was used was very nice, and it was very clear to the audience that this stone just controls time, because I think that for most of the stones, I know the Mind Stone has been used to take over people's minds, but in the previous films, they mainly just do kind of whatever. They're just kind of like power, but this stone, it was very clear that it did one specific thing, so I think that the mainstream audience might become more attuned to that being the case for all of the gems. So I thought that was very cool, and it is nice to see the way that this one is utilized, and we are one step closer to Infinity Wars. There is actually only one gem that we have not seen yet used in a film, and that's going to be the orange one, which I can't remember what it stands for, and there is a good possibility that will be used in Brie Larson's character, Captain Marvel, in Captain Marvel's origin. So that'll be very exciting if that is the case. But I thought that the Time Stone was used very nicely here. And then the last thing I want to talk about is kind of the world building that they have going on and the fights. I think that the fights, the first time I saw this was in IMAX 3D, and the fights were incredible. Like, not only were they just mind-blowing because of what was happening, but seeing them on the big screen and just watching what happened to this world would have been interesting enough. But then you throw in people fighting with magic while all this stuff is happening around them. It just becomes even more mind-blowing. It's very cool. I very much enjoyed all the fights in this movie. I think that they were incredibly inventive, and I loved them, especially the end there. Now, the end had amazing potential when he was reversing time and everything was going back, and they were fighting while that was happening. I thought that was great. It didn't last too long. I wish that they drew that out a bit more, because that was just absolutely stunning to see everything around them going back in time and having the stuff that's going back in time affect them, but to have them fighting in a linear fashion was super cool, super inventive, and unlike anything you've really seen. I've certainly never seen it on screen, anything like it. So it was just incredibly spectacular and surreal in many occasions, and I enjoyed it tremendously, I have to say. So I really enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was a fantastic, origin story from Marvel, from the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As for how I would rank it with the other Marvel movies, I like to wait a few months after I see a new Marvel movie before I kind of rank it in my head, just because obviously I like to get a perspective when I'm not like on the high of the new movie, basically. However, I would consider this one to be one of the best origin stories from the MCU. The Iron Man is still my favorite, of course, but I would definitely consider this better than Thor and Captain America. Ant-Man, I did enjoy Ant-Man's a lot, and the Ant-Man and Doctor Strange movies, they're both origin stories in the MCU that happened quite recently. However, they're just totally different, so it's hard to compare them, but I would think that I like this one more than I liked Ant-Man. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the movie. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm sure I'm missing a lot of stuff that I'd like to say. However, just from what I can think of at the moment, that's kind of what I wanted to say for my review. So personally, I really enjoyed it. I think that it's a fantastic origin story from the MCU, and considering the MCU just really doesn't make bad movies for the most part, it is fantastic just to get another one on the list that's just as good as the rest, basically. Super fun movie. I hope Hot Toys makes some more characters. I would love a Mordo Hot Toys figure, especially with the thought of him being a villain in the future. I'm super excited for the Doctor Strange Hot Toys in general. They're obviously doing the Ancient one, which I think is unnecessary, but I'll be interested to see it. I doubt I'll buy it on full retail, though. And then Cassius, Mads Mikkelsen's character, I would love to see Hot Toys from him, although I don't think that his character deserves one, to be quite honest, and I certainly don't think they're going to make one. So there you go. That's my video review of Doctor Strange, the movie, 2016. Let me know what you guys thought of it, and thanks so much for watching.